I'm George Boston Rhymes, and this is KVCI.blogspot.com. Keeping Valdosta citizens informed. YouTube, Boston, G.B.R. I'm in the city of Valdosta, Georgia, in the county of Lowndes, and in the state of Georgia. You know, because I have produced so many videos and blogs concerning the South Georgia news media outlet. I was in Augusta yesterday, and I just found out that there was a news conference call here in Valdosta, Georgia, and the news media did not show up. I just want to say short form that sooner or later, Valdosta, Lowndes County, and South Georgia in general will have a news media, a television station and radio that will cover the news and that will move away from the old 1860 charter mentality that I have brought to you over and over again. The 1860 charter was a charter that was displayed in Valdosta City Hall that led into Judge Edwards' courtroom. That 1860 charter read, and I quote, that the mayor and council shall pass all proper and necessary laws and ordinances for the control of slaves and free persons of color, and to control, suppress, and abate all nuisances arising from hogs, dogs, horses, and other livestock straying at large in Valdosta and for other causes. That charter was reluctantly removed by a vote down racial lines in 2004. Yet we see that mentality to suppress, control, and abate is alive and well in 2013. Not only in Valdosta, but in Brooks County, in North Florida, we see that our sons and daughters are really being used in the armed forces to fight for the rights of foreigners while their rights are being ignored, suppressed, and done away with. Just last weekend, Friday night, Tyrone Brooks was in Brooks County. Senator Steele, just many of the civil rights leaders here in Georgia and from other areas, Florida, was at a meeting in support of the Quitman 10. But what do you know about it? What have you heard about it? You don't know anything about it because it wasn't reported outside of my YouTube channel. And so I just want to say to the people here in Valdosta, South Georgia, and I want to thank all the professors at Valdosta State University. I want to thank the white right people who commend me for what I'm doing to get this information out to you. We was at a meeting at City Annex. My name came up, not by black people, not by civil rights leaders, but by everyday white people who thanked me for what I'm doing, and that is to educate the people on what's going on in their beloved community. And so we must understand that whatever happens now, we have no control over it. But we do know that Georgia Attorney General, let me repeat, Georgia Attorney General, in his pamphlet that I have and studied well, wants open government, want the sunshine laws of Georgia respected. They believe that the citizens in Valdosta, Georgia, home of Moody Air Force Base, Wiregrass Technical College, Kindaloo Golf Course, Francis Lake Golf Course, Wild Adventures Theme Park, Georgia Military College, and so many other beautiful, outstanding institutions of learning needs information. If we are going to look for people from Omaha, Nebraska, Augusta, Texas, or even Ireland to come and attend Valdosta State University or Georgia Wiregrass Technical College, these children and parents must have the truth about what's going on in their communities so they will feel comfortable by sending their children here in our beloved community. No one wants to send their children to a community or a city wherein they don't have anybody to report the news fairly and equally. Valdosta City Council meet at public meetings. They do a prelude and an afterburner after each meeting on a conservative radio station. 105.9 and 92.1 FM. And we commend the radio stations. I commend them. It's not about the radio station's owners, Black Crow Media. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the people that we vote into office who only want conservatives notified and will not do the same thing to all of the other radio stations. That's my concern. And that's the concern of professors at Valdosta State University and all other Georgians of average intelligence. The county commissioners meeting, they go to the same radio station, do a prelude and an afterburner to let the people know fully what's going on in the community, but the majority of people in the city does not know what the heck going on because it's not being reported. Valdosta City School System had 3 meetings just a few weeks ago. Absolutely nothing that concerned the Black African American people and children and students were given to them through a dissemination of the news by our news media whiteout machine. And it's not a black issue. It's not my issue. It's an issue that should concern everybody of average intelligence, and more so, listen, more so, the Georgia Attorney General, Jack Kingston, and others, Tim Golden and Amy Carter, all should be concerned about educating the general public on what goes on at public meetings in the state of Georgia. There is no need of trying to white out the fact that the president of the SCLC, an organization that Dr. King worked under and out of all of his life for the betterment of man and mankind, Reverend Rose spoke, but the South Georgia news media ignored every word that he said for the most part. So that means it's like a tree falling in the forest. It's like a tree falling in the forest. Listen, listen please. His words and the words of Minister John Robinson and the words from George Boston Rhymes was as if though a tree fell in the forest. And then they gonna turn around and tell us that the forests don't even exist. They gonna tell us, make Valdosta, the people at Moody Air Force Base, the people at Kendaloo, the people at 10 Wild Adventures Theme Park, the people in Francis Lake, the people at Georgia Military College, the people at Wiregrass Technical College, and just everyday lawyers and doctors and people who don't attend these, they want them to think that the forest don't even exist and that no tree fell. Yet we who was at the meeting, we all sit around in amazement and ask the question, what did they report from the last meeting? And we look at each other and say, nothing. And there are people who say, are you surprised that the South Georgia newspapers, television, and radio ignores this information? Most of us are not. But we just believe that if America's Georgia could have 6 to 7 newspapers or 5 to 8 newspapers, and Valdosta, a metro city, only have 1 newspaper, just 1, and it is so extremely and disgracefully partisan until it don't even make sense. We have television stations and radio stations all seem to be in lockdown and in agreement with the old 1860 charter mentality to control, suppress, and abate. So how could the people here in South Georgia ever know who to vote for by the work that they did? Now, Reverend Rose, the only minister, I'm gonna repeat, Reverend Floyd E. Rose, the only minister in South Georgia, black, white, German, Jew, etc., etc., Christian, Muslim, Jew, Hindu, you or other. He is the only minister right now, outside of John Robinson and myself and a few others, who will stand up on these shoes, but they can tell you all about Jesus of Nazareth, or Muhammad, and Master Farad Muhammad, the man that taught Elijah Muhammad, or they can tell you about Imhotep, or King Khufu, the builder of the first pyramid. Or they can tell you about Catholicism. But when it comes down to telling the everyday people that something is wrong in Valdosta and need to be corrected, let me repeat, that something is wrong in Valdosta and need to be corrected. Can you imagine at the library, South Georgia Regional Library, they put the news media, WCTV, Channel 10, Channel 27, and anybody else that want to record the meetings at the public library got to get in an 8-by-foot long, 4 feet square, oblong square to record that public meeting. At the county commissioners meeting, Lowndes County commissioners meeting, they put you in a little pyramid area where only 2 cameras can squeeze into that area. What about Channel 6, Channel 10, and 27? Their big cameras can't even fit into that area. But that's what they have restricted us to show us that the 1860 charter mentality is alive and well, and as if though the people here don't give a damn about it. And what is more saddening and sickening is the First Amendment right is being impacted, and yet our South Georgia television stations, our South Georgia newspapers, our South Georgia radio, they're not saying nothing about it. And I send them a copy of every video that's dealing with this issue, and you don't hear nothing from them. It's like as if though they are in cahoots with the force that is against our sons and daughters that putting their life on the line at Moody Air Force Base, Georgia, for the rights of foreigners in foreign lands, while the people in America rights are vanishing in the cosmos. Let me close on this note. Why am I doing what I'm doing? It is because something must change here in Valdosta. Listen to me, please. Something must change. And I am 100% sure that the Valdosta Daily Times and that our local television stations and our local radio stations will move into the 21st century sooner or later. The only question is how much it will cost the taxpayers of South Georgia, Valdosta and Lowndes County, Georgia. And I want to leave you with this note. How can the followers of Jesus, how can the followers of Muhammad, how can the followers of the son of Amram and Yoshabel Moses continue to go down this path while their rights are being dissolved right before their eyes? How is it and how could it be that a commander-in-chief of this beloved nation can be talked about and denigrated as no other president in the history of this nation? How could it be that we see the spirit of Lester Maddox, we see the spirit of the Bull Connors, we see the spirit of those of yesteryear who history found to be on the wrong side of history, and today they are only footnotes at the bottom of various pages of books and encyclopedias. And even their own children have condemned them because they were on the wrong side of history. Are we going to allow the wicked, are we going to allow the same spirit of Lester Maddox and others to reign supreme in our world? I suggest not, because there is something written in the volume of sacred law that says there is a balm in Gilead to heal the sin-sick soul. There is something written in the volume of sacred law, Galatians 6 and 7, that God is not mocked, for whatsoever man sow, that shall he also reap. There is something written in the volume of law, Ecclesiastes 8 and 8, for no man have power over the, let me repeat, no man has power over the spirit to retain the spirit. And just perhaps God said it best when he said in his word, he have no respecter of persons. And if God have no respecter of persons, why should we have a respecter of persons? And Jesus said, love ye one another. And then I'm going to close it out with John, wherein the book of John it reads, 8:32, Jesus speaking, and ye shall know the truth, that the truth shall set and make you free. And if you are not free to have your news and your stories told, then somebody have lied to you in the name of truth if they tell you you are free. If you know that your community have had 31 jail deaths, and Nobody's saying nothing about it. The television station, the newspaper, the radio not talking about it. These are human beings. These are not people in Afghanistan, Iraq, Kuwait. These are people in the United States of America that lost their life. The women right now that go to jail, in the old jail, say they're living in inhumane condition, but who cares about that? What would Jesus do if Jesus was here? Why am I doing what I'm doing? I'm doing what I do because I believe in the God you dip in and around. I don't dip. And there are others who do not dip. And so we who refuse to dip from the bitter cup must stand strong and understand we must not duplicate, imitate, and placate Jesus, Martin Luther King, or any other of the great leaders. If we are not going to be with Jesus, we should tell the world as Jesus told the Jews when they talked about their father, Abraham. Jesus told them that if you was of the work of Abraham, then you would do the works of Abraham. And if you can only go to church on Sunday and holler hallelujah and hallelujah, hallelujah and hallelujah, hallelujah and hallelujah, if that's all we can say, then we might as well take off our suits, take off our robes, and let's go home and drink liquor, take crack, sell drugs, lie to the people, show favoritism, don't put any black pictures in Valdosta City Hall. Keep it lily white except for the pictures of the Tuskegee Airmen. No ancient buildings of the 1800s and the 1900s of anybody in the black community on the first floor of Valdosta City Hall in a city that is a majority black. A school system, 70% black. Need to be a change. And I'm 100% changed in my mindset. I'm changed in my mindset to know that the God of my forebears were right. They were right in that there is a balm in Gilead to heal the sin-sick soul, and that our suffering and our sojourn into this country aboard a slave ship called Jesus in the year 1555, captained by a white European slave owner named Sir John Hawkins. It was by divine destiny that God ordained this to happen. And so we are all here to help build a better America, not just for white folk, not just for black folk, but for everybody. For we are all precious in God's sight. We can't get around that. We cannot get around that God loves all of us. God don't care no more about a black man than a white man, than a Jew, than a Gentile, than a Protestant, than a Catholic, than a Muslim. He loves all of us. And it's unconditional love. And this is why his love is seen in the sun. He don't let his sun just shine on black folk. He don't let his water be drinkable just by Japanese. He don't let his earth serve just the black people. He don't just let Christians enjoy his oxygen. He don't just let the rivers flow in the Latino community. He don't let the interstate run through just the Italians community, but he let it flow all over the planet Earth because he loves all of us. And if he loves us, then we should also love one another. This is George Boston Ryan saying to you that sooner or later we're going to get some newspapers, we're going to have some TV stations, we're going to have some diversity in the radio, and we're just going to have a much better place here that is more reflective of the founding fathers of this great republic, that God allowed to be here for all of his children to play in and have fun, not to play game that is accustomed, but play together in doing what is right and that which reflects the righteousness of the divine source, which is of God Almighty. Once again, I'm George Boston Rhymes. This is KBCI, which means keeping Valdosta citizens informed, because I got sick and tired of the news media here in South Georgia squashing the news and not reporting. All you have to do is Google Valdosta Whiteout News. I got a blog. I started blogging in the 90s, and I got all of them. I got items and things that were omitted from the news. And I close on this note. God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man sow, that shall he also reap. And if God had no respect of persons, then why should we? Bye-bye. We gone.